Hello.
Hi. Mum was born in RACH GIA. I lived there until she was 3 years old. Three months ago,
Yes.
we were in RACH GIA, which is where my mum grew up.
So we're in RACH GIA at the moment, and this is the Mekong Delta. You can probably see like the floating markets, people's houses, and everything on the river. Yep.
That was like the first time that you've been there since what?
Since I escaped.
Yeah, so since she was 3, so that's like what? 42 years.
And I was born here in RACH GIA. We just found my old street, RACH GIA, and this is the street where I used to live before we escaped from Vietnam. So there's the street there. Behind us, we actually found the location of my house, the number 36 on this road.
Like, how did it actually feel going back?
I really liked RACH GIA because I thought it was a little bit untouched, like not like Ho Chi Minh City, because that was full on, and you know, it was so commercialized. And when we went to the market, it was just like buy this, and everyone's trying to rip you off. And
Every other place that we went to, like Ho Chi Minh, Phu Quoc and stuff, they were all very like they were adjusted to tourists, and they were all very tourist orientated.
all the markets that we went to, they didn't try to, you know, up the price, or so it was kind of a bit relaxing because you weren't like always on, you know, your guard. I loved it because the food was really familiar to all my home cooked food, where my mum and my grandmother used to cook for us. I mean, I don't remember the actual city because I was only 3.5, but things that we had brought over to Australia with us, like the food.
So we drove past a rice restaurant in the cab on the way here, and the driver said that it was really famous, really good, like it's a really good restaurant here. So we're trying it out. They will cook any rice we want here, so we're gonna go in and give it a go and see how it goes.
All your senses is what makes you remember your childhood more than the actual place. The food was what I grew up with, so I guess nostalgia and what you remember is not places when you're little, but smells and sounds and tastes.
So we paid like about 55,000, which is about $3 for each plate, and it's actually not bad. It's quite authentic. Reminds me of my grandmother's cooking. Reminds me of my grandmother.
Anyone that goes to RACH GIA who's a tourist is usually just there for like a night before they go to Phu Quoc.
Yeah, and no one knew any English there.
Yeah.
Here there aren't many tourists, so we haven't seen a single Caucasian apart from my dad. So everywhere we walk, everyone's like pointing and staring at us.
And laughing.
And no one knows any English.
Yeah, nobody knows any English, even the like people who work in tourist industries.
Yeah, we're the centre of attention, which is a nice change.
Shopping in RACH GIA is significantly cheaper than in Saigon.
We're on this bridge in RACH GIA, and it's called the Sunset Bridge. And all these flags are because it's some national holiday or something like that. But it's really beautiful views here over the river.
It's unfortunate that they don't have a rubbish collecting system, so all the rubbish is lined up along the riverbanks, floating out to the sea.
The Vietnamese War, so it was like the resistance against America, and it was from 1955 to 1957, and it's
1975.
1975? Wow.
1955 to 19, so it was really long.
Yeah, so it was like one of the longest
War in
wars
history.
in history.
The South Vietnam wanted the country to stay the same underneath the French colony, and then the North Vietnam wanted independence. They wanted to run it like a communist country.
North ended up winning, and my only, which is grandpa in Vietnamese, mum's dad, was fighting for the South. Lost the war in 1975.
I was born in 1974, so a year before the war ended.
Yeah. So what actually happened to Only after losing?
It was because he was fighting for the South Vietnam. He had to go to what they call the re-education camp, and it was more like a concentration camp where propaganda was that they were re-educated the commonest ways. I mean, a lot of people were killed and made examples of, abused and all that stuff. They said that he was supposed to stay there for 2 months, but he ended up staying there for 3 years.
So how did he survive the camp?
Luck, I guess, and he was young and fit, and you know he was able to work. Like a lot of people who couldn't work got punished and made examples of. Like if you were exhausted and you fell down, you got beaten up. If you were too tired, you get tied to like a pole in the middle of the yard and left there for days to make an example of. It's about ruling with fear. But Dad got moved from place to place, and you know he mainly was working on irrigation system in the Mekong Delta with really no tools at all. A lot of people had to go and sweep the mines, which luckily he didn't get to do because they got blown up. Sometimes they would sleep under a banana tree and then they'll wake up with snakes all around them. Sometimes they could catch the snakes and eat them, cook them, eat them. Sometimes they would catch the water rats or the rats in the Mekong Delta, and they would eat the rats. When they were that desperate, they would take the leather belts from the corpse of people who have died, and they would boil up the belts so that it's soft enough to eat. They were allowed visiting rights for families, like maybe once every month. So my mum and my brother would cook food for him, pack lots of food, and then go to where he was placed and give him the food, and hopefully he could make that food last for a while to the next visit.
My bang, which is grandma in Vietnamese, she was the one who organised the escape. Why did you still want to escape when it was like 1978?
79. So the war was ended, and then my dad got thrown into the concentration camp for 2 years.
Yeah.
In 77 when he got out. 1977, 1978.
Yeah.
Underneath our bed, my mum would put all these sandbags. People would hide, say like behind our house or the house behind us. Then they would shoot them, and then we would have to like dive underneath the bed in the sandbags, just trying not to get in the line of fire. There were a few times when the bullets missed us, and then there were other things like families and friends turned on each other because of jealousy and suspicions, or because of self-preservation, like that want to protect themselves. So instead of getting themselves in trouble, they would say, no, he's planning an escape, and then the communists would go and take them away, punish them or abuse them, or like in the middle of the night, for example. One of my uncles, they came because he was working for a company that was owned by the French. Will came out and cried and begged for his life, saying he's done nothing wrong, and they just took him away, and we never saw him again. And rumours were that they just take him to the nearest river and shot them. And this happened after the war, and everyone was escaping. People who were intelligent got killed because they were free thinkers. Poets got their hands cut off because write something against the propaganda. Everyone was living in fear.
So they left on like a boat, and it was a pretty small boat, I reckon. Wasn't it? It was pretty small.
Well,
and then
it looked like this is one of these boats.
You've said to me before that there was like heaps of people on the boat, like so many people that like you couldn't even move. So who was it? Who did you actually go with?
So Mum planned the escape. She had a little bit of money that she had been saving up. I mean, we weren't rich or anything like that, but she had tried to escape a few times and that fell through. Like there were too many people, they were crowded, or the boat got caught or whatever. And one day she got offered a spot, and they said, we've got to leave in 2 days, and if you're not ready, we're going to leave without you. So she wrote like a telegram to my dad, and after my dad got out of the concentration camp, he then was on house arrest, so he was up at the farm. So the farm was like from Melbourne to Geelong. So she wrote a telegram saying to my dad that pretending that she was dying and that he had to come and collect his kids. And his first reaction was, I'm not gonna go because it's dangerous, and if we get caught we'll get shot on the spot. She said, I'm going to leave. We'll probably die here anyway, and there's no future here for us. So if you don't go, I'll go anyway. So my great aunt, who was living with us, said don't go because it's too dangerous, you know. But my mum didn't listen to her either. She woke us up in the middle of the night, and then we had to sneak out. My great aunt said, I can't stay back without you because you are you and the children are everyone I've loved. Changed her mind at the last minute and came with us. And my dad, while he was, you know, helping mum cross the river into the other boat, he just realised how dangerous this is for my mum, a woman, to take 3 kids on her own. So he ended up going with us as well. But back to your question, yeah, the boat was really crowded. This is an example of what it looks like. And we weren't allowed to bring many luggage or clothes or food because there wasn't enough room on the boat. A fishing boat that smuggled people, so we were underneath the deck of the fishing boat, squashed like sardines.
Yeah. Told me that her brother was sitting in this spot, like he chose a spot to sit in, and he sat there for so long without being able to move that he like couldn't get up because his legs were so numb.
Yeah. So you can see, I've got this diagram, the boat, all the women and children were underneath the boat, and on each of the boat was like a couple of holes that were an inch in diameter just for air, and then all the men were on top, and they had ice packs in between so that we won't overheat. We sat there for days. It was full of human waste and vomit because we couldn't move, we couldn't go anywhere to go to the toilet. It was putrid.
Mum's boat was attacked by pirates.
Yeah.
On the escape.
Yeah. We ran out of food, and then there was a boat in the distance, and we all thought, okay, it's another refugee boat, and maybe they had more food and water, and they could maybe share it with us, because as you know, if you don't have water in 24 hours, you could die. And so, yeah, we were calling out to them, saying, come and help us and all this stuff. And then as they were approaching, we realised that they weren't another refugee boat, but they were pirates, basically thieves. So they wanted to rob us. They came onto our boat. So all these men, pirates, came on, hopped onto our boats. They smashed everything. They, you know, beaten the men up. And then they realised that there were women and children underneath the boat, underneath the deck, and they couldn't get to us. So they made us all hop onto their boat. Before they told us to get out of the underneath the deck onto their boat, you know, all the women were going, quick, let's just, like, we were scraping the floor of the boat where I was saying all the vomit and human waste were, and we were smearing it all over ourselves so that we would be unattractive and, you know, putrid and stinky and disgusting, like actually making ourselves smell disgusting, look disgusting, so that they won't find us desirable, so, you know, they won't rape us.
As you were going across to the other
yeah. My mum's knee got caught in between the boat. Yeah, it smashed her knee and bruised it. I don't think it was broken, but it bruised it heavily. And she's carrying me because I was only 3 and she had my sister. What she thought at that moment was, like, she just blamed herself. She thought that they were going to use us for trafficking or they were going to harm us.
So my mum and her sister, they couldn't swim at that time. And I think what was going through Banglade's head was, it was a better way to die to drown than to go through whatever the pirates were going to do to them. So she told my mum and my sister to jump.
So that split second, I guess she had to make the decision that which was the better way to die at her own hands or be harmed by the pirates. There was another boat that came by, and it was another refugee boat, and because the pirates didn't get much from our boat because we were a poor boat, they decided to chase the other boat, so they quickly told us to get back onto our boat so that they could chase the other boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got back on our boat and everyone was really relieved, but that relief was short-lived because after they left, we realised that we were sinking because they had smashed our boat up. They had smashed our engine up. they had strip searched us and threw all of our clothes in the ocean, and they threw all the food and the water, well, what's left of it, which wasn't much anyway, into the oceans. We were destroyed. Kind of had to accept the fact that we were all going to die, we were all going to drown. Differently, some people were hysterical, praying to Buddha, crying, saying their goodbyes, panicking, like all sorts of emotions.
They were all hanging onto like planks of wood and stuff.
Oh, we still had the boat, but it was sinking. And then a couple of hours later, this huge oil tanker came across us, like this huge Canadian oil tanker, like it was massive. It just kind of appeared out of nowhere, which is kind of like a miracle.
It was a miracle.
And because French was the main spoken language in Vietnam at the time.
No, it wasn't, was it?
My parents did. So they could speak French, and they, trying to yell out in French. And luckily, because it was a Canadian oil tanker, they could understand French. So they were yelling, can you please save us? We have got children and women on the boat, and we are refugees, and we just got attacked by pirates. And if you don't save us, we're gonna drown. So they started throwing down nets and tires and scooped us up. And my dad was one of the last ones that stayed behind with some of the other men, and they made sure that the boat sank. They took everything that they needed. They smashed the boat a bit more so that the boat would sink quickly, because they were scared that the oil tank would change their minds and send us back.
So the boat took you guys to like an island, which was like where you waited to be sponsored so that you could go to a different country and live there. Do you like what are your memories of that place?
So the boat did take us to an island because we weren't citizens of anywhere, and they couldn't take us to another country, so they took us to the nearest Refugee Island. So before my mum went onto the pirate ship, she gave Dad the pieces of jade, and she said, keep these safe, and if you get out of this alive, because she thought she was going to die, if you get out of this alive, here are some jade pieces to start a new life with my brother, her son, and just make sure that he remembers that I love him, that I'm sorry that we got into this mess because of me. After we went onto the island, he found those pieces of jade in his pocket, and then he changed those pieces of jade for a shack that someone else had left to the refugee camp. We were in a shack for a while on the island.
How long did you wait until you got sponsored? Like until you could move?
So it was about 2 or 3 months. So it wasn't long.
That's pretty good.
And then we didn't get sponsored. We got moved. We got moved from the island into KL, which is on the mainland, into a refugee camp. And then it was this big camp with just sleeping bunks everywhere. We could learn some English. They gave us food, supplies, like sometimes she'll eat half the chicken and then she'll go and change it for fresh vegetables or hygiene stuff. Imagine how hard it is to travel as a woman. You got to think about having a period or even brushing your teeth. Like I lost all my teeth when I came to Australia. They were all rotten. I had to take out the whole lot.
So eventually you came here.
Yes.
What was it like? Like, what was your first impression?
We then were sponsored by the Australian government. We flew here on Qantas. I remember, Mum and Dad looking at the plane going, why would anyone paint like a big red rat on the tail of the plane? They didn't know it was a kangaroo, obviously. First memories or experience was like drinking milk or orange juice, thinking, what is this? Like, especially fresh milk. I had never drank fresh milk before, and I thought it was totally disgusting.
Even it's really hard to find fresh milk still in Vietnam.
Yeah. I got really sick. I got a cold, and like I was only 4, came here, new country, like scared, really scared, into the the hospital to quarantine me and to test what kind of flu I had. So then my parents weren't allowed to stay with me. I cried all night. I remember crying so much that I would throw up everything I ate that day, and not understanding the language at all. My parents didn't understand the language. We didn't know what was happening, and I thought they were going to leave me. I thought that I was being taken away from my parents. So I guess my first experience in Australia was being really scared. So we then went into a hostel in Nunawading, and we were fed, and we got clothed by the Salvation Army, and that's probably why we love thrifting so much, because we started our lives here dressed by second-hand clothes, and it got into a habit that we always shopped in second-hand shops. We shopped second-hand even before it was cool.
Yeah.
From the hostel we moved to Fitzroy in the housing commission place. There's lots and lots of other little stories, but maybe we can leave that for another time.
Yeah.
You will have any more questions, then maybe you could comment down below, and we could do another video.
Subscribe and leave a like, because it's a pretty cool story, right? Press the notification button so that you get notified every time we post a new video.
Thanks for listening. Bye.